pyramids, a lost ancient race, strange holes, aliens, the lost city of Atlantis, and a huge ice wall, Antarctica has been at the center of many myths, legends, and mysteries. What could be hidden there? This icy continent, the most remote and least explored place on Earth, was actually shown on old maps by Piri Reis and others. Surprisingly, those maps show Antarctica as green, warm, and full of life, not frozen like it is today. And that's not all. Some fossils found there suggest human-like creatures with long skulls once lived in the area. Traveling to Antarctica is very limited and tightly controlled. Could there be big secrets hidden there that only a few people know about? After World War II, powerful nations rushed to claim parts of Antarctica. Secret experiments by the US made people even more suspicious. Today, we'll dive into the strange stories and hidden truths about Antarctica. Welcome to Religious Story TV. We are a small team of 2 working hard to bring you these stories. Please like and subscribe to help us reach more people. If you're ready, let's get started. Now we come to the shocking part. A group of archaeologists from the Smithsonian Institution in the United States found 3 long human-like skulls in Antarctica. Alien skulls have been discovered in many parts of the world. These skulls are stretched backward in shape, and some claims say that a few even have horns. Their faces look like humans, so people think they were intelligent beings. But finding such fossils on this continent goes against traditional history. That's because Antarctica was believed to have never been visited by humans before, so scientists are wondering if they might be from beings that are not from Earth. Other long skulls were also found in Peru and Egypt. Their mystery still continues, as official history and science can't explain them. Or maybe they are just one more truth being hidden from us. Some researchers insist that beings from other worlds have visited us. They also believe that civilizations in Africa, South America, and Antarctica were in contact with each other thousands of years ago. Still, scientists are not sure if artificial skull shaping can also change the volume of the skull. These strange skulls have many other physical features that are very different from normal human skulls, especially after the recent statements in the US Senate about aliens and the military hiding information. It seems this discovery might also be hidden, and we may only learn the truth in the future. Some researchers claim that alien technology was found in Antarctica and is being kept in secret bases. For example, in 2018, a UFO-like object was spotted in Antarctica using Google Earth images. In 2024, scientists from the University of Gothenburg in Sweden discovered strange new structures under the Dotson ice shelf in West Antarctica. These structures are shaped like teardrops, and some are up to 300 meters long. They are located at the bottom of the ice shelf and attracted a lot of interest from scientists. These kinds of claims often come up because Antarctica is mysterious and hard to explore. But scientific communities say that there is no strong proof yet that links these structures to aliens. Some sources believe that biological weapons or genetic engineering experiments are being done in Antarctica. There are scary claims that human DNA is being mixed with other living creatures in experiments. Also, some say that studies on dangerous diseases or antibiotic resistance are happening in Antarctica because it is so isolated. We know that Nazi Germany carried out some expeditions to the South Pole before World War II. Right after these events, in 1946 to 47, the United States launched the largest Antarctic operation in history, called Operation High Jump, led by the famous Admiral Richard Byrd. This mission became the foundation of many modern legends about Antarctica. After hundreds of years of myths, the idea of the lost southern lands was finally proven in 1820 when the Russian Imperial Navy officially discovered Antarctica. After this discovery, despite the harsh climate, many countries lined up to explore the continent. The first large-scale expedition was carried out between 1928 and 1930, again led by Admiral Byrd. During this mission, the first military and scientific base, called Little America 1, was built on the Ross Ice Shelf. Byrd led several more expeditions to the region in the following years. But the Americans were not the only ones exploring Antarctica. Nazi Germany also organized expeditions to the continent in 1938 to 39. Some legends even claim that the Nazis were searching for Atlantis during these missions. What adds a truly mysterious dimension to the story are the claims that toward the end of the war, as the Nazis accepted defeat, some of their advanced military technologies, and according to some, even Hitler himself, were secretly taken from Germany to a base in Antarctica and from there to Argentina and Chile. Of course, this theory is not supported by solid proof. However, there are strong documents showing that some high-ranking Nazi officers escaped to South America after the war, changed their identities, and lived there. So it's hard to say that all of these claims are completely made up. Maybe they really did hide some advanced technologies under the ice. Whether you connect these theories to Nazi technology, to the legend of Atlantis, or to something else entirely, right after the war, the United States sent over 4,000 soldiers and scientists to Antarctica with a massive fleet. This began the most comprehensive research project in the region's history. Officially, the mission's purpose was to test technology in extremely cold weather, study the geology and climate of the region, and carry out scientific research. But according to some, that was just the surface explanation. The real goal, they claim, was to make contact with an advanced civilization said to be living under the thick ice layers. According to some stories, Admiral Byrd entered a massive underground opening during one of his exploration flights. Inside, he was met by representatives of a different civilization. They shared knowledge with him and then let him go. Some versions of the story even mention conflicts with these beings. Of course, these alien or underground civilization claims didn't just appear from one mission. In the following decades, ice core studies revealed that Antarctica was once a temperate continent covered with tropical forests and home to many life forms. Geological research also showed that the continent used to be located closer to the equator. One of the most surprising discoveries was that the land beneath the ice closely matched the shape shown on the Piri Map drawn almost 500 years ago. When all these facts came together, a kind of Antarctica craze began around the world. Hapgood's theories and ideas suddenly attracted great attention. The thought that an ancient civilization was still waiting beneath the ice inspired books, articles, and documentaries. Antarctica quickly became one of the planet's biggest mysteries. And just as global interest peaked in 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was suddenly signed in Washington with 12 countries participating. This treaty greatly restricted access to the continent and limited independent research. Naturally, people began to ask, why shut down such an important discovery zone? Especially after the war was over and technology had advanced. Why aren't planes allowed to freely fly over the continent? Why is it still protected under such secrecy? Especially now, when satellite images are revealing strange structures beneath the ice, it's hard not to ask these questions. And the more we learn, the more questions seem to appear. So, let's take it step by step. One of the main reasons behind the global interest in Antarctica after America's research missions was the desire of countries to control land in the region, especially its rich natural resources. Let's do a simple comparison. While Russia's known oil reserves are around 80 billion barrels, the Ross Sea area in Antarctica alone is estimated to hold around 50 billion barrels of oil. This doesn't even include other coasts or the inner parts of the continent. After World War II, the world entered a period of rapid industrialization. Any rush to claim Antarctica could have triggered a new war between countries and caused serious damage to nature. Because of this, the Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1959. According to the treaty, extracting natural resources and military activities on the continent were banned. Now we're diving into a more interesting topic: maps. Some ancient maps from thousands of years ago mention the existence of Antarctica, and not just as a frozen land, but ice-free. Could this be a reference to the lost city of Atlantis, or perhaps an entirely different ancient civilization? You decide. There was a philosopher in ancient Greece who talked about the existence of Antarctica long before it even had a name. Yes, quite surprising, isn't it? This person was the Greek philosopher Claudius Ptolemy. He was also known as an astronomer, mathematician, geographer, and astrologer, a truly extraordinary figure. In his works left at the famous Library of Alexandria, the knowledge center of the ancient world, Ptolemy spoke about a huge landmass in the south of the Earth. That land was Antarctica. He referred to it as the unknown southern lands. But how could he talk about Antarctica in the year 150 AD, about 1,650 years before its official discovery in 1820? Ptolemy accepted Aristotle's idea that the Earth is round. To support this idea, he believed there must be a heavy landmass in the south to balance the planet, just like in the north. That's why he mentioned Antarctica, not because he saw it, but based on his calculations. At least that's what we think today. He called this idea the balance theory. Back then, there was also a common belief in Greece. They thought all the seas on Earth were surrounded by one big landmass. The seas were actually inner seas inside this giant land. Because of this belief, they thought there must be a large land at the edge of the oceans. Today's flat Earth theories and the idea of a giant wall at the poles come from these ancient Greek beliefs. According to the flat Earth theory, the Earth is shaped like a disk, and Antarctica forms the outer edge of this disk. The ice wall theory is also part of the flat Earth model. It claims that there is a massive ice wall beyond Antarctica, preventing the ocean's waters from spilling over the edge. Supporters of these theories are not insignificant in number, especially since ancient maps, such as those by Piri Reis and Orontius Phineus, depict Antarctica without ice, and similar beliefs exist in ancient Greece. According to some claims, NASA is manipulating satellite images. Another theory suggests that the secret purpose of the Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, is to prevent people from reaching the edge of the world and to conceal the existence of the ice wall. They also cite the strict entry restrictions and military presence in Antarctica as further evidence supporting their claims. The fact that certain areas of Antarctica appear censored on Google Earth, along with the existence of numerous conspiracy theory books and films about the continent, strengthens these beliefs. Of course, the widespread sharing of such ideas on social media also increases their influence. Naturally, these are not scientifically accurate claims. We included them in our video simply because they are part of the mystery surrounding Antarctica. Some even say the Quran supports these ideas, but since there are no clear verses on the matter, we won't comment and will continue with a different part of Antarctica claims. Ptolemy's idea of a mysterious southern land turned into a myth and a goal over time. For hundreds of years, European sailors competed to be the first to find it. As sailing technology improved over 1,300 years, the age of exploration began. Brave sailors started crossing vast oceans to find unknown lands, and slowly maps began to show more details about our planet. Maps showing the coasts of North America, maps of Asia, and eventually larger maps combining all of them. It seemed like the mysteries of the world were finally being solved, until the year 1511, when the great Ottoman sailor Piri Reis shocked the world with a very mysterious map, a famous map that showed Antarctica before it was even discovered, and more amazingly, before it was covered in ice. Piri Reis created a very large and detailed map, which even included parts of the American continents. What we have now is only a small surviving part of a much larger map. Even though it's just a small piece, it shows something very valuable for its time: the west coast of Africa and the east coasts of both North and South America. But at the bottom of the map, we also see a strange landmass. Today, we know that area is Antarctica. Another map, published in 1531, supports this idea. It's the map by Oronteus Phineus, and it's considered one of the most mysterious maps related to Antarctica. He drew a landmass very similar to Antarctica, and he showed it in great detail, without ice, with rivers and mountains. The land looks very similar to what we now see in modern radar-based topographic maps. The map even includes the words "southern lands." What makes this more mysterious is that the coastline shown on the map looks very much like the parts of Antarctica hidden under the ice. And these hidden coastlines were only revealed much later using sonar technology in the 20th century. That's why some theorists suggest that Oronteus Phineus's map may have been inspired by an older, unknown source. Together with the Piri Reis Map, this is one of the most debated and mysterious maps in history. Unfortunately, not enough research has been done on this topic. Even though it sounds impossible, it's very interesting that someone was able to draw Antarctica before it was covered in ice. This is exactly where theories about help from aliens or spiritual powers begin to appear, because neither the technology nor the climate at that time made this possible. A scholar would take this topic seriously. He would claim to have found Atlantis, the advanced utopia described in the writings of the famous philosopher Plato, who lived thousands of years ago. This scholar was Charles Hutchins Hapgood, born in 1904. He studied history at Harvard University and later became a professor of history. Hapgood dedicated his life to solving the mystery of the lost southern continent found in old maps. He studied many sources, from ancient Greek legends to the drawings of Oronteus Phineus, and presented a fascinating theory. According to Hapgood, the cartographic methods used in those old maps were far ahead of their time. The coastlines, especially in the area believed to be Antarctica, were drawn in surprisingly accurate detail. Combining these findings with mythological stories, Hapgood claimed that a pre-Ice Age civilization had passed down advanced technical knowledge to humanity. This is what we know today as the pre-flood civilization theory. He believed this civilization had advanced knowledge of navigation, and they lived in the southern lands mentioned by both the ancient Greeks and Oronteus Phineus. But there was one big difference. According to Hapgood, the continent we now call Antarctica was once located in a much warmer climate in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and a highly developed civilization once lived there. It was said that this civilization sailed to the Americas, Europe and Africa and shared its ancient knowledge with the people they met. But around 12,000 years ago, a disaster known as the Younger Dryas period struck, and the continent shifted to its current position and became covered in ice. So, what about continents changing places? Other scientists of the time strongly rejected Hapgood's claim. They said, "How can entire continents move? That's scientifically impossible." But what they didn't realize was that continents are actually always moving. And this idea wasn't originally Hapgood's either. Back in 1912, Alfred Wegener was the first to suggest that continents move. At that time, the scientific community didn't take him seriously. In fact, they even mocked him. Years later, especially in the 1950s, scientists began mapping the ocean floor. They discovered huge cracks running along the seabed. Then, in 1968, Robert Parker and Dan Mackenzie developed the plate tectonics theory, giving this idea a solid scientific base. Finally, in the 1970s, with the use of GPS technology, it was clearly proven that continents actually move, even if only by a few millimeters per year. This shows that science is never fixed. It keeps growing and changing. Scientific progress comes from open-minded and brave thinkers, not from people who limit their thoughts to what's already accepted. Just look at Wegener. When he introduced his theory in 1912, his colleagues laughed at him, but by the 1970s, his theory was proven true. That's why when someone comes up with a strange scientific idea, we shouldn't reject it right away. We should look at it as a possibility. Even if there's no proof at that moment, it might become a scientific fact in the future. Both science and philosophy require an open mind. This is something we should never forget. However, we should also note that there's a big difference between the theory of plate tectonics and Hapgood's claim. Plate movements are very slow, and visible changes in continents take millions of years. But Hapgood claimed that Antarctica, a continent almost as big as North America, shifted to the South Pole in a short time. That's definitely a bold and extreme claim. Hapgood tried to base his unusual theory on a scientific foundation. According to him, beneath the Earth's outermost layer, the lithosphere, which we live on, there is a molten layer called the asthenosphere, located about 200 to 400 kilometers deep. The movements we know as plate tectonics happen thanks to this fluid layer. But Hapgood presented a radical idea. Around 12,000 years ago, an enormous event took place, so powerful that the entire lithosphere of the Earth suddenly shifted its position at an extraordinary speed. This huge shift, he said, caused the great destruction described in ancient texts as the Great Flood. This kind of event is extremely difficult, but not entirely impossible in theory. Still, Hapgood's theory was not taken seriously by most academic circles. However, we must remember that the science of geology still has many unknowns. So, just like in the past, saying this is impossible might be too early. Maybe a massive unknown disaster really happened thousands of years ago. Over time, Hapgood's theory began to be connected with the lost continent of Atlantis. The idea that ancient civilization ruins might be hidden beneath Antarctica's thick ice, which is nearly 5 kilometers deep, became popular in modern culture. And it wasn't just Hapgood who made this theory popular. Let's talk about the mysterious objects often seen on the internet. For example, that famous image of something that looks like a crashed UFO dragged along the ground. These types of photos have been around for years, but most of them either have scientific explanations or are completely misleading due to how they're presented. Even though this claim became popular, when you look at the uncropped version of the image, it's clear that it's just a rock that rolled down a mountain slope. But what about the pyramid shapes? Now, that could have been really interesting. If they weren't in Antarctica, normally it's rare to see sharp edges in nature. Wind and water erosion usually smooth out the edges. But glacial erosion is different. Glaciers can carve even the hardest rocks with sharp edges, like a knife. That's why, in places that were once covered by glaciers, you often see mountains with sharp peaks. So, what about the mysterious tunnel entrances? That part is true. Yes, there are dozens of fake photoshopped images, but there are also real large cave entrances on the continent that open in summer and close in winter. Still, calling them alien landing pads right away is clearly wrong. They might just be natural ice caves. Making assumptions without going there in person is a mistake. Now, the big question, could there really be traces of a civilization beneath 3 to 5 kilometers of ice? That's an important topic worth discussing. Could Hapgood's theory be right, that during a cataclysmic period around 12,000 years ago, the continents shifted? It's a bold idea, but definitely thought-provoking. And could Atlantis, which is said to have been an island nation, have shifted toward the South Pole and frozen over? Modern science says it's not possible because Antarctica has been covered in ice for millions of years. Scientists also say the last time Antarctica was near the equator was about 20 million years ago, back when the continents were still closer together. But were there people living 20 million years ago? We don't really know. Maybe a civilization did exist and disappeared over time. Normally, after millions of years, nature would erase any trace of people. But since Antarctica has been frozen for so long, maybe some things stayed preserved, and we might only find them if the ice melts one day. Otherwise, trying to drill through 3 to 5 kilometers of ice in temperatures as cold as -80 degrees Celsius is extremely hard, especially since Antarctica is huge, covering about 16.6 million square kilometers. These are the facts we know about Antarctica. Even without talking about aliens or Nazis, it's still one of the most mysterious places on Earth, especially from a scientific point of view. As long as the ice remains, Antarctica will probably keep its secrets. But who knows? Maybe with global warming, melting ice will reveal something amazing someday. And if something real is found, I promise I'll be the first to make a video about it. If you have done your own research or know interesting facts about Antarctica that I didn't mention, please share them in the comments. Let's talk about it together. After all, Antarctica is still 98% unexplored, a frozen land full of mysteries. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Take care and see you next time.